Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I am back. Good to be back. So tell you what, it is a Saturday afternoon in May. I wasn't really planning on pumping out too much content, especially Arkansas-related content with the College World Series going on. Shout out to the Hogs, who will be playing 7 p.m. Central Time, so a little bit after I'm posting this video. But I'll tell you, there's been an interesting piece of basketball news that kind of just came across my desk here probably over the last 12 to 24 hours. Had a few Arkansas fans DM me about it. A few Arkansas fans asked me about it. A few Arkansas fans emailed me about it. So I figured we just go ahead and hit this head on, and hopefully lots of you watch it. And if not, watch it after the baseball game for sure. But Arkansas, okay, so it's late May. NBA draft deadline is done. And I think the big conversation in Arkansas circles right now is pretty simple. Is John Calipari's roster done for 2025, 2026? I think most people who are kind of around the team, I just think it's an interesting conversation with the fan base. Do you need to add one more player? Bottom line is right now, Arkansas probably has 10 dudes that if the season started today, I think John Calipari would feel pretty comfortable going to war with. Certainly not all of them. You hope they don't all have to play 30 minutes, but you have the 4 returnees from last year: DJ Wagner, Carter Knox, DJ Wagner, I'm blanking now, Billy Richmond, Trevin Brazil. You have the 2 transfers, Malik Yu and Nick Pringle. And you have the 4 freshmen, the 2 5-stars, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. And then you have the 2 guys that I think probably are the guys that Calipari, in a perfect world, isn't going to be playing 25 minutes a game. Isaiah Sealy, 4-star from the state of Arkansas, and Kareem Ratali, an overseas player, I believe from Lebanon originally, if I'm not mistaken. So bottom line is you got 10 guys you feel pretty good about, again, varying degrees of what role you would play. But the question becomes, are you going to add more? And why it is very interesting is because over the last couple days, there has been increasing buzz that a 5-star international superstar originally from overseas, now playing high school basketball, might not only reclassify, but could reclassify and be an Arkansas Razorback. I am talking about 6'10" forward Mika Muurinen, originally from Finland, has played the last 2 years of basketball or high school basketball in the United States. Long deemed to be a reclass candidate. The smoke seems to be picking up. Is Arkansas the favorite? Let's go ahead and dive in. So, Mika Muurinen, listen, we won't spend a ton of time talking about his game because if you're watching this and if you're listening to this, you probably know a little bit about him. But 6'10" forward, originally from Finland. By the way, unrelated to anything, I got a little bit of the travel bug, especially this time of year when things are slower. I've always wanted to get to those Scandinavian countries, but I bring it up. So I'm always kind of obsessed with these players that come out of places that are deemed, in my opinion, to be obscure. I don't want to offend any Finnish people that are watching here. But anyway, from Finland, played the last 2 years of high school basketball in the U.S., is a member of the class of 2026, which obviously means he is going now into his senior year. The thing is, though, he has always been sort of deemed to be a dude that could potentially reclass. And in the fall, he did take 3 visits. He took a visit to Arkansas. He took a visit to Michigan. He took a visit to Utah. By the way, I forgot about this. Remember, the Finnish connection at Utah, Hanno Metala, was a star at Utah, like in the Keith Van Horn era. I believe he was part of their Final Four team in '98. He now runs like the biggest Finnish academy, the biggest basketball academy in Finland. And so Utah, I think, always kind of is in the know about players like this. So that's just something, keep in your back pocket. But he took those 3 visits in the fall. I believe he took a visit to Texas Tech probably about 2-3 weeks ago here in the spring. And I think pretty much everybody else in college basketball is certainly interested. Duke, Carolina, Kentucky was sniffing around on him, this time last year. And so the question now becomes, is he coming to 2026? And if so, is he a Razorback? Let's talk about the reclassification stuff, because clearly he is a very prioritized player. And what I would say about the reclassification stuff, I always go back to the baseline question whenever we're talking any reclassification candidate, whether it's AJ DeBonsa, Cooper Flagg, Marvin Bagley back in the day, whatever. What year were you born? Might sound silly to somebody that doesn't follow this stuff on a day in, day out basis. But the important part with reclassification is that in virtually every time that a player is reclassifying, it is to move up the clock so that you are a year closer to being eligible for the NBA draft. And obviously, as good as NIL is in college basketball, it's another level in the NBA in terms of the money that you can make. And so remember, to be draft eligible for the NBA, two things have to be true. You have to be a year removed from high school, and you have to be 19 in the year of the draft. So in other words, any player that's going to be drafted in this 2025 NBA draft has to be born in 2006 or earlier. Anybody born in 2007, doesn't matter how good you are, you're not eligible. AJ DeBonsa, born in 2007, not eligible. Tyron Stokes, born in 2007, not eligible. Can't put your name in, can't do whatever. And so why that's significant, Mika Mirin is born in 2007, which means, not great at math, but that means he will be 18 this year in 2025, and he'll be 19 next year in 2026, which means that he will be draft eligible. And so all I will say as a general rule, and I'm not talking about this player specifically, is that in all my years covering college basketball, it is that when a player, basically, let me backtrack. When reclassification rumors start, okay, basically what I can tell you in all my years of covering this sport, if they are age eligible and they are a legitimate NBA draft prospect, straight up, it almost always happens. Because, again, you're getting 1 year closer to being eligible to play in the NBA and get that huge first rookie deal, which, of course, gets you a year closer to the massive, massive, massive second extension, or first extension, I really should say, which is the one that sets you up with hundreds of millions of dollars, sets you up for the rest of your life. So when a player is thinking about reclassifying, it almost always happens. Like I said, Cooper Flagg was technically in the class of 2025. And then his advisors were like, well, wait a second. Now you'll be eligible for the 2025 draft, but you got to move up, graduate a year early. Same with AJ DeBonsa. He was originally a member of the class of 2026. He moves up to 2025. He will be eligible for the 2026 NBA draft. So Mika Murin, if he comes to college basketball next year, will be eligible. And it's worth noting, if he doesn't come to college basketball, if he doesn't graduate this summer and enroll this year, then he won't be eligible till 2027. And so in all my time covering college basketball, very rarely do I remember instances of legitimate NBA prospects that there are rumors that they're going to reclass that they just don't do it. Matter of fact, I was thinking about this. Again, DeBonsa, Flagg, Marvin Bagley back in the day. The only ones that I can really think of that the rumors persisted and they said, no, we're good. Paolo Banchero, and I knew his family pretty well during the recruiting process. And they were, both of his parents were athletes. Dad played for the national championship team football at Washington in 1990, 91. Mom is an all-time legend in basketball at Washington. And basically the parents were like, you're not skipping steps. Take your time, dominate high school, then you'll dominate college and you'll go pros. I would say it worked out well for Paolo. And Tyrese Maxey was kind of the same. I remember there was rumors that Tyrese Maxey could reclassify. And I think it was just with his family. It was like, loves high school. Great. By the way, one of the best interviews I ever did. Sweetest kid in the world when he was 18, 19 playing college basketball. But he was just like, I don't want to miss my senior year. So I'm only bringing this up to say that very rarely does it ever happen. I'm getting off subject. Now, the big question becomes, does Arkansas make sense? That's where I'm a little bit more dubious, and let me explain why. Again, the principal reason to reclassify. Now, I understand it's a little bit different in this NIL era, but really the reason to reclassify is pretty straightforward, right? It is, again, and I'm not repeating myself just for the sake of it. I'm repeating it because there's an important context here. It's to get yourself to the NBA as fast as possible. It's to get to college a year earlier than you would have, which then puts you in position to be drafted as early as you can. You make the real money in the NBA, the huge money in the NBA, and then you get that mega extension years down the road. So that's the reason that you do it. And I guess my question is, if you're Mika Murin and if you're his advisors, even if a reclassification is on the table, does Arkansas actually make the most sense? And that's not a knock on Arkansas. If anything, it's the exact opposite. It's that, there's actually a lot of really good players on this team and in this front court. Let me give you a quick side example because I think this is a good one that I just thought of as I was talking. Remember Jeremiah Fears played at Oklahoma this year? He's the perfect example of how the best case scenario in a reclassification. If I remember correctly, he didn't reclassify till July or August of this past year. Oklahoma desperately needed a point guard. They had nobody. He reclassifies, goes to a place where basically everything is built around him. Like, let's just call it what it is. It just was. And so he goes to Oklahoma. He immediately has the ball in his hands. Everything basically hinges on, are you good enough or not, Jeremiah Fears? He was. Oklahoma makes the tournament. Now, he's probably going to be a top 10 pick on NBA draft night. And so that is the best case scenario for a reclassification, because the school needed a specific player in a specific role. That player comes in, maximizes the opportunity, and boom, he's out the door a year later. And so with Mika Mirin, I guess my question would be, if I was advising him, is Arkansas really, they got a lot of good players in the front court. And if you're going to reclassify, the goal is to go to college, play really well in a prominent role, and then boom, get out a year later and go pro. And so to me, the question becomes, in a backcourt that, or front court, that has Trevin Brazile, that has Nick Pringle, that has Malik Ewan, and has Kareem Ratali, is that really a spot where you're going to thrive and shine? It's not because he's a bad player. It's not because Arkansas is bad. It's actually a good thing. They have a lot of players in that role. And so to me, if there's a thought of like, well, he complements Trevin Brazile really well. Well, he might complement Trevin Brazile really well, but he ain't starting over Trevin Brazile. And so does reclassifying and going to a place where you're going to play 22 minutes in a backup role, does that make sense? I don't know that it does. Now, I'll say this. I don't know that most of the schools that are recruiting him have a perfect spot for him either. Michigan recruited him earlier. They're loaded at the 4-5 spot with Yoxel Lendenberg and Morez Johnson Jr. and Adai Mara. North Carolina has a bunch of 4 guys, Jaron Stevenson and Caleb Wilson. Duke is pretty stacked at that spot. So like, I don't know that there is a perfect landing spot for him. Maybe it's Texas Tech, which is a little bit thinner in the front court. But I just bring it up because, again, if you're going to college a year early to maximize your draft position, I don't know that you go to the place that has Trevin Brazile, that has Nick Pringle. Even if you want to argue Mirin maybe at 6'11" could play like the 3, well, they got Carter Knox, who's going to be an NBA player there as well. So I think this is something that's definitely worth monitoring, because like I said, when reclass rumors start, there's usually a reason behind it, and more often than not, the player that is rumored to be reclassifying actually ends up doing it. But I think the big question is this the spot that actually makes sense for him? I just don't know. And I think we got to see how some other stuff plays out. I mean, rosters are mostly set, but is there some surprise team that needs a 4-man, that needs a stretch guy, that needs whatever? I don't know. I would guess that he's going to reclassify. Right now, I understand why in the Arkansas community there's a lot of buzz around him. Again, he visited. He has ties to the staff. He has ties to the program. I'm a little hesitant to say that that would be the perfect landing spot for him. I'll tell you what, though. This is what you need to do. 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. 2, make sure you're following our Torres on the Hogs account. That way, in a month, if Torres is dead wrong, you could tweet at me and say, Torres, you're an idiot. You told us that Mika Murin had no chance of going to Arkansas. So follow Torres on the Hogs on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll be back Sunday night. By the way, full episode of the Aaron Torres pod. We'll reevaluate our top 25 after the NBA draft deadline. And there's a couple other headlines that I think are very interesting.